I have a new torch in for testing today. It's the Rofis TR20. I'd never heard of this maker before, but the model looked quite interesting, so I thought I'd make a video so you could have a look and see what you think on the torch yourself. Now the pack that's included is quite comprehensive. You have a holster, that's the torch, which we will look at in closer detail shortly. There is a wrist strap included, and that has an adjustable central section too. Onto the charging cable. This has metal tips on the top and around the casing, and it's braided too. Nice thick cable, feels quite strong. You also get an included manual, and there are two spare O-rings and a spare flap cover for the micro USB charging port on the torch. Looking at the front packaging, output is up to 1100 lumens, and it's using a CREE V3 LED. Has the built-in micro USB charger too, and you do get a battery with this pack. On the side you'll see the range around 206 meters, 200 hours, and drop proof to 1.5 meters. On the back, more detailed specification of the torch. You have two power options with this, the 18650, or you can use the CR123 type cells, two of those. This gives you an idea of the included items and a bit more details about their manufacturer at the bottom. Instruction manual is very good, nice and clear, easy to follow. You'll see two power levels there. The top is the 18650 and the bottom is the CR123 cells, so they're different run times. Now you do have direct access modes to the low modes and turbo, as well as 3 strobe patterns as well. Onto the body of the torch, very nice finish, anodized aluminium. Quite a fine grip on this. I might have gone for a slightly coarser one, but I can't complain about the finish and quality. It's very nice. The buttons are low profile too, so you don't particularly press them by accident. This is the flap covering the micro USB port. Just make sure you have that closed if you're outside or in wet or dusty conditions. It's nice that you get a spare included for that, but it feels quite strong. It's not the sort of part which should break, but it's nice that you get an additional one. Now operation via the two buttons, very straightforward and simple. The bottom one is the power, and the top switches through the modes. You can also long press either one to activate the high turbo or the low power mode instantly, so you don't have to cycle through the settings, and it has a memory. That's the strobe modes there, flashing through those. Now if you have the torch on and you press and hold the button here, you'll see the anti-lost green LED, and that will keep flashing. If the torch is off, it will still flash, so if you drop the torch you will be able to locate it much easier with that. Nice little feature, not something I've seen on many torches. On the bottom, the magnetic section, and this reveals a tripod socket, standard tripod thread, so you can mount this on a tripod, quite handy. Now to twist this you require quite a bit of effort. It is pretty stiff. I'd rather that than it be too loose, but it really, you have to grip the body of the torch quite hard and then turn it with a good bit of force. Now it's completely smooth all around the edges. When it's turned, there's no sharp edges at all, so the machine quality on this is very good. There's no complaints from me on that front. Very nicely machined product. I also like the swivel function a lot. That's something which really could come in handy. Looking at the LED, it looks fairly small, but looks can be deceiving, and the reflector is a smooth type around the edges. Hardened lens, as well as sealing on the front ring. Now I tested the battery on this and it came into just over the 3400 milliamps an hour mark, so it is a good cell. I don't know who made the cell, perhaps it's a rebrand, but it is of good quality. There are slightly higher capacity ones out there. If you're going to get a second battery for this torch, get something decent. The torch is worth it, and many of the budget lithium cells are not particularly good. You won't get a very good run time out of them, so go for something decent. You'll see inside there's also a spring, so you have two springs either side. There won't be any battery movement at all. Putting this into the case can be a bit tricky, so I usually put it in at an angle, otherwise the clip, which is removable, can get in the way a bit. You can also reverse that clip around if you want. You can clip it onto a hat. Nice quality case though. D-ring on the back, and you have a popper as well as a belt loop built in. This is the torch which is rotated around. It fits in the case nicely, so you could actually put this on a belt or strap it to something and have the torch on. That's another bonus feature of the swivel head function. Quick look at the side profile of the torch with it turned around, and on the bottom I've attached the hand strap through the holes there. Showing you with the hand strap on, very secure torch, nice and comfortable, and I also like the operation too, very intuitive and simple. The green LED there will also indicate the battery power, so if it's running low and you turn the torch on or it hits below 50%, the red LED will come on. So you have a two-stage battery level on the torch. Just testing out a few of the modes inside now. And what I've done is just done a quick test about the magnetic base, and it does stick quite well. It's quite strong. There's potential to slip around possibly on slightly smoother surfaces, but it does hold the torch securely. And here it is on a fridge, in front of a fridge door. You can see it sticks quite nicely to that too. That is a real bonus feature. That's something that really could come in handy. Now I'm testing this underwater. Make sure you have the flap closed and the battery section screwed in properly, and underwater again no problems. Testing the power charging, I got just under 0.9 amps. That was the best I got. The battery was flat when I charged this, so it's a little bit less than some, but it's quite acceptable for in-torch charging. And the red indicator here turns to green once the charging is complete. I'm running a quick practical test now. I have the CREE XP-L They're quite different torches in some ways, but they're similar price. The Rofis is actually slightly cheaper, but the power output's quite similar. You look at the top of the reflectors and you'll see that the Rofis is smaller, but the test will reveal something different. The CREE also has 3 buttons, a different type of torch, different design, but they're both nice torches. Now I'm running through the test outside. I've tripod mounted the camera, and you can see now I'm using the CREE. One thing I noticed with the CREE is that the low power seems slightly lower than the Rofis, and it's also more defined in the middle. You get a much stronger output in the central area but less in the peripheral, so it's more concentrated, the light on the CREE. Now that's an advantage or possibly a disadvantage. The advantage would be you'd get additional range, but the Rofis might work better for you if you're outside at night, perhaps travelling at night down a dark path or something like that. Here we are, the Rofis now. You can see the low power mode, and I'll cycle through the higher power modes so you can see the difference. Now once the power output increases on the Rofis, you'll see that the light spreads out more than the CREE, and this will be more obvious later on when I do further distance tests on this. They're both powerful torches, but you will find that they're quite different with their light output. I like them both in their each individual ways though. Back onto the CREE again, and I'm using it on the roof just to give you an idea of the range. Cycling through the power modes again. Same pattern repeated. The CREE is a more concentrated light in the middle. It does have some spread, but the spread's different to the Rofis. So really it depends on what you're looking for with the torch. You can see it sort of blows out the highlights on the camera more with the CREE than it does with the Rofis. Back onto the TR20 again on the roof. Even at lower power settings you can see it's spreading out the peripheral area more, and that increases as you ramp up the power output. So it's a more spread out light with the Rofis. I quite like both in their individual ways, so perhaps they're not direct competitors. Even though the Rofis has a smaller reflector, it's actually giving a wider field of view. back onto the Clarus on the turbo mode. Here I'm just targeting a shed, and you can see the difference between the two. It's more spread out on the Rofis. Wrapping up with a quick summary conclusion whilst I go through some longer distance tests. This is over 100 feet, pointing both torches down. You'll see on top of the screen which one is which. I really like the TR20. It's a completely different type of torch. It has many advantages: the swivel head, the magnetic base, the tripod mounting could also be useful, but particularly the magnetic base could come in handy if you're outside working on cars or something like that. You also get a very good package included. The power output is good. It's more spread out, but that could work well for certain things. It's not quite got the range that the Clarus has, but the overall quality of the torch is excellent. Just a bit stiff on the head, but this is a really nice torch and one of the best I've tested to date.